Good morning, everybody. Today, I want to talk to you about checks and balance, and I would like for you to listen carefully, read carefully. The slides can be self-paced, which means you can go through them at your own speed, and you need to take notes because this information will be on your midterm exam. So let's get started. James Madison is called the father of checks and balance. Now, the idea of check and balance was not his original idea. He is going to take the ideas from the French philosopher Montesquieu, and he's going to take and put them into a very practical form of government that will be very effective for this new form of government that's going to have the three different branches. So let's look at what these two terms, check and balance, really mean. When you check something, you're stopping it. You're preventing it from moving forward. Now, for James Madison, it was all about making stupid, rapid laws. Laws that were made out of hysteria, laws that were made out of anger. He believed, as did the founding fathers, that lawmaking should be a slow process so that everything could be put together in a timely manner. And we know, for example, when Mr. Trump did the travel ban, he had been in office 1 month and they put out this travel ban that was chaotic at best. American citizens were put on the travel ban, native born citizens, people who had been citizens for 20 years. Airports were stranded. Foreign countries didn't know what to do with these American citizens. It was a bad decision. The Patriot Act that was done right after 9/11, the American people were frightened to death. We had been attacked. Thousands of people had died in those attacks with those planes. And they were demanding that the government do something. So they passed this Patriot Act. I mean, it didn't take hardly any time at all. And we now look back on that, and what a horrible act it is and was. And some of it's been done away with it. But we need to remember, fast is not always good. Now, balance means that you are preventing, if you'll look at the last bullet, a concentration of power. Each branch is supposed to hold separate powers, and those powers belong only to them. And then those powers then will balance one another out. We'll look at a chart in just a moment to further explain that. So the first branch, of course, is the legislative branch. Now, you and I call that Congress. Now, they hold the most power. There are more powers given to them under the delegated or express powers than any other branch. And this is because Congress makes the laws that affect everyone. And in the original Constitution, the House of Representatives would be elected directly by the people. And so they considered this a very important job of the Congress, was to make these laws and do it in such a manner that it would be a deliberative process and it would not go too quickly. The second branch, of course, is the executive branch. Now, you and I tend to lump that all together in the presidency, but he has other offices, and we'll deal with that when we talk about the president. Now, his job under checks and balance is to carry out these laws of Congress. Plus, he has some other weapons in his arsenal, and we're going to look at those express powers that the president holds in just a moment. The federal courts, the judiciary, is the third branch. Now, there's nothing really written about their powers. They do not have a list of delegated powers. When these courts were created, according to the Federalist Papers that we talked about before, the courts would be an interpretive body. They would be responsible for looking at the laws passed by Congress. They would be responsible for looking at the actions of the president. And are these laws constitutional? And their guide would be the Constitution of the United States. And as the years progressed over the last several hundred years, the Supreme Court has been the main instrument of carrying out this kind of undeclared power that was assumed would happen to interpret the Constitution, and it has. Next, we see a little chart, and I would ask you to pay particular attention to this chart as you're taking notes. These are all things a lot of you already know. For example, the job of the Congress is to pass laws. But look to your right. The president can check that power. He can balance that power by vetoing any laws passed by Congress. The job of Congress is to declare war. But in order to balance out that power, the President of the United States is the commander-in-chief of the military. He can choose not to send them to war. Another delegated power is to print the money that we use. Well, the president, for example, will appoint the Secretary of the Treasury and other individuals who then take care of the money, who make the budgets, who spend the budgets, which then leads to one of the other powers of Congress. The president, look to your right, makes appointments to many government offices. He appoints secretary of this. He appoints the heads of FBI, the heads of the Department of Justice, the heads of the Environmental Protection Agency. He appoints ambassadors to foreign countries. But if you'll look to your left, all of these presidential appointments must be approved. Now look at the very last bullet, by the Senate. They can stop a presidential appointment simply by voting against it. So this is a comprehensive look at checks and balance. Take good notes. Watch this as many times as you feel is necessary.